How are you doing, Fitness Center members? It's Alex with Elevation Corporate Health and the T. Rowe Price Fitness Center. So today we are going to talk about a method that you can use to increase the total volume that you get out of your repetitions. So we've gone over the body weight strength training that you can do. It's going to be more conventional lifting where you're trying to work up with the reps through a set progression. That one's very important. We released it first because that is what you should be doing with the bulk of your workouts. You should definitely be doing that one. We released the body weight training that you can do with resistance bands in conjunction with the body weight. So you see the resistance bands, I missaid that, but we released the resistance bands as well. So you can do that in conjunction with the body weight training, and then the isometric training. Those are all very important. The isometrics are going to keep your strength. Here, we're going to focus on increasing the volume. So we're going to take more basic exercises and then pause them at the hardest portion. So first, we'll talk about the method and why we're doing it, and then we'll just go over how you do it and then what the workout's going to look like. It's going to be using very simple exercises. So at any portion of a lift, there is a part of it that's easier, where your strength curve is the strongest, where you can use the most resistance through that portion. So in a squat, of course, we all know if you do a quarter squat, you can squat a lot more weight because you're stronger at that joint angle. Your weakest joint angle is the bottom. So that's why we're most limited by what you can get out of the hole width, as lifters will call it, the hole in the squat. That's where you're the weakest in the squat. So just as an example, and I'll show you how we're going to do this with all the exercises in the program. Most will be body weight, but we'll be using the backpack for some with whatever resistance works for you. What you're going to do is and if you've taken my body weight sculpt classes or my backpack sculpt classes that I've been doing live, you'll be familiar with this principle. So we're just going to sit down, pause for 1 second. I'm going to come up. I'm going to sit down, pause for 1, 2, and come up. Sit down, pause 1, 2, 3, and come up. So we want to do that with as many reps as you can. So you're going to work up adding 1 more second to the pause. Now, if it's too easy, when you're doing squats, you get up to something like 20 reps. It's going to take forever. You can also do this with a split squat. So again, you're just going to keep the least amount of weight on that back foot. So it's really just acting as a little tap here. I'm just going to sit down, 1, come up, sit down, 1, 2, and come up. So that's the general principle with all of these. I don't need to go through pausing all the way up on each one, but I do want to show you all of the lifts and how we're going to do them. So that's the squat. We can also do this with a single leg deadlift. When you do the single leg deadlift, if you can, try to keep the arms back, and that's going to ensure that you're using your hips to move and not moving at the spine. So this is a quick demo of this, but if I move at the spine, now my shoulders have to roll forward and now they drop down here. If I can hold my hands overhead, assuming that I can get my arms back when I'm standing tall, if I move only around my hip, this shouldn't change in orientation at all because I'm not moving my spine. So that's why we want to focus on keeping the arms back. Do the best you can. Not you should be able to get your arms back like that, but if you can't, you'll want to work on your shoulder mobility, but that's not going to be fixed in a day. So just try to maintain whatever position you can get in that direction when you're doing your deadlift, single leg deadlift. And you're just going to pause in the bottom. So right here, this will be where you pause, whatever. 1, 2, working your way up. So that's your pause on the single leg deadlift. Again, if you need to make that harder, you can hold on to something. If you want to make it a little easier, you can actually do the same thing where your foot sits back and you turn it into a, we'll call it a lunge deadlift. So we have those 2 exercises. Let's do one with the bag. This is just going to be a shoulder fly. The pause is going to happen at the top. So you're just going to pull up, hold for 1, back down, up, hold for 2, and so on. Now with the curl, where you want to pause, and do finish the whole lift, I'm going to show you what I mean. Where you want to pause is where this weight is the furthest from the axis of rotation, which is your elbow. So relative to gravity, gravity is only moving horizontally, so we want the horizontal position to be furthest from the elbows. That's right here. As I move up, the arc comes closer. So you want to pause here, come up, back down, up, 1, 2, finish, and back down, up, 1, 2, 3, finish, and back down. So that will help you build up at the hardest portion of that lift. Don't need it anymore. Those are the two that you're going to use that for. Now we'll do a push-up. This can be done from the knees, can be done from the toes. Go through the body weight strength training progression. It can be done with one arm extended. If you watch that, you're familiar with those. If you can do this with one arm push-ups, that's very impressive. But likely you're not going to be able to. There might be some of you out there. But again, we're just going to pause. What's important here is that you don't pause on the ground. So for the most part, you want to tap your chest to the floor lightly in the push-up when you're doing your regular repetitions. What we want to do with this is we want to have that chest be just slightly off the ground, as close as you can get to the ground without touching it, because you don't want to rest the gravity of your torso on the ground. So it's going to be, you probably won't even be able to see the space clearing it, but so I'll try to show it to you like this. If I were to just sit down here, obviously I'm resting, 1, 2, 3, and I could do that forever. So here, just slightly grazing, 1, 2, 3, and press up. And again, we're starting at 1 and going up to 10. So the next thing we can do for our upper back is our shoulder flies from a lying position. So we're just gonna, we've done this in the body weight sculpt. So what we want to do here is have everything come up relative from the shoulder blades, or relative to the shoulder blades. So I'm going to keep the shoulders down. I'm going to try to move those elbows again, I'm keeping the shoulders pulled down as I do that. And that's how you're going to activate the upper back. And it's surprisingly difficult for what you can do there. So, okay, we have those. Now we'll go into our plank walk back, body saw, whatever you want to call it. Again, you might already be familiar with what I'm going to do, but you're going to go as far back as you can. Hold 1, step forward, go as far back as you can. 1, 2, step yourself forward. Again, we're keeping that plank the entire time. Now we'll do that with our hip bridge. So I'm just going to bridge up and hold. And you can set your backpack over your hips, whatever weight you have, you can set it over your hips to make this harder if you need to. Or you can do it on 2 legs to make it easier. Thinking of driving down, I want to keep the hip tucked, ribcage glued to the abs, so I'm not popping the ribs up and lifting through the lower back. This will ensure that I just drive down through the heel. So those exercises, if you go through those in that manner, again, making them as hard as you need, try not to be able to do more than 20 reps. Aim for somewhere around 12 to 15. 10's fine, because you're really going to be adding a lot of time under tension at the hardest portion of the lift. And the reason that we're doing that is that our resistance is somewhat fixed. We do have an upper limit to our resistance. In the gym setting, we typically don't. Bars can always get more weight. We can do the same movement. We don't have to manipulate other factors, even though we do strategically at times. Right now, we don't have the option to manipulate the most, I want to say the most, what's the word I'm looking for? Reliable factor. The one that is the most consistent, and the one that's the most convenient to manipulate, is simply the external resistance. It's such a good measure, but we don't have that option right now. So we have to do things to add reps, and just adding reps can go on forever. So now we're trying to add the reps at the hardest portion of the lift. So again, I'll just recap our exercises that we went through. If you do 3 hard sets like this, I promise it'll be very difficult and a good way to actually build muscle in conjunction with the other things that we've done. None of these work well in isolation. The most important one is the first one we released. But if you add this in, it'll be a great benefit. So we have our squat. You're pausing at the bottom. Do a split squat. That's fine. We have your deadlift. You're pausing at the fully extended or horizontal position. Single leg, split leg with an external resistance. Fine. Then we'll go into our push-up, pausing just off the floor. Perfect. Then we'll go into our reverse fly, our lying shoulder raise. It's not a Superman, but it's like a Superman, focusing on the rear delts. Pause as high as you can get off the ground. Good. Go into our shoulder fly, pausing with the bag parallel to the floor. Boom. Just like that. Or the arm parallel to the floor. Same thing. Our curl, pausing with the bag parallel to the floor, arm parallel to the floor. Then we have our hip bridge, pausing raised off the ground. And then we have our plank walk back, plank body saw, whatever you want to call it, pausing at the fully extended position. So add those in. If you're building some kind of lower upper day, do squat, deadlift, hip bridge, plank on the lower day, other lifts on the upper. You can do this as its own day. If you're just following them all as full body days, you can add the exercises into other workouts that you're doing in conjunction with the isometrics. But you can also do it as a standalone that I'm talking about right now, going through each one 3 times. You can do them as a circuit, you can do them straight through, you can do them as supersets. That part isn't important how you divide them up. You can go back and forth between the squat and the push-up, back and forth between the deadlift and the curl. You can do them all straight through. Again, however works best for you, the principle is what's important, and working through them at the hardest position. So, enjoy this. I'm using this as an external remote, so I'm driving it. So, have a good workout. Get as many reps in as you can. You're gonna really feel a lot of burn on this one, and really focus on driving forcefully on the way up out of that pause. And you'll get some force generation benefits out of it by taking the stretch reflex away. So, I hope you enjoy this as much as you can. Enjoy might be the wrong word. Also, the top bun. I don't know what to do with my hair these days, so I'm trying the top bun out. It's not a permanent thing. I don't really like it that much for myself. I think it looks great on some other people, but it doesn't really work well for me, but I don't know what else to do. So if you have any ideas, feel free to email me those ideas for what to do with my hair, because it's killing me, and it's probably killing you. Thank you guys so much. Have a great day.